A big hello to all our viewers and audiences on this live broadcast session by VOH. This is your host Sanjay Jha. I'm co-founder at Collateral Medical. I have worked with companies like Johnson Johnson and GE Healthcare earlier, and I have the luxury of having Mr. Amit Chopra, Managing Director, India and South Asia at Thermo Fisher with us. Amit, it's a pleasure to have you to this very special episode of Thought Leadership, hosted by VOH Network. Our goal today is to gather unique knowledge, insights, and inspiration from a dynamic mind such as yours. Nothing unites better than the power of shared experiences. The more we spread our ideas and stories, the stronger we make our community. We'll be having a free-flowing chat. Our audiences and viewers are eager to know your esteemed views and so much. So without much ado, let's begin. So Amitji, from where all of it started, the one thing event that made you realize the importance and role of healthcare and diagnostics sector.
So, Thermo Fisher has always had a very large presence and connection with the healthcare industry. And, as we connect more and more with our customers and we hear about the disease burden that is there in our country, which is underserved, and the role that we can play as a multinational in bringing leading edge technologies and world leading innovations to our country, I think it becomes very clear that healthcare as a sector is one of the most important sectors for the world, for the country. Nothing has highlighted that more than our pandemic that we are going through right now. And, the importance not just of the curative healthcare, but the importance of preventive healthcare, the importance of rapid innovation, which brings together multiple disciplines, right, into healthcare. So clearly, the journey in Thermo Fisher has been an eye opener for me and all my colleagues around the country, around the world, in terms of the importance of healthcare, and of course, we are very proud that we've been able to play a meaningful role in advancing healthcare, advancing science in the world and in the country, and of course playing an important role for the society.
So that brings us to a very important part, and we have seen that. At least in my experience, I've seen that.
I'm sorry, your voice is a little bit breaking up. I couldn't catch you. Could you please?
Yeah. So I was saying that when we look across lots of medical device companies, I see that Thermo Fisher is on the forefront of innovation. And especially during the COVID time, I know of quite a few innovative products which you guys have already rolled out in the world. Can you please walk us through what are those certain innovations which has already happened at Thermo Fisher, and how is it helping this world right now?
So let's start with the pandemic, right? Because I think it's something which is something that is in everybody's thoughts and minds right now. Right from the time when the coronavirus structure was identified, and you see these models of coronavirus with the corona type of structures on the top. The structure identification itself happened using our cryo-electron microscope. We were one of the first companies in the world to get emergency use authorization of our COVID testing kit. And, we have directly and indirectly contributed to almost 50% of the global testing of COVID using RT-PCR. You'll be surprised to know what an impact we have had, not just in the kits, but also in the instruments. Almost 60% of the testing that happens on RT-PCR in India happens on our instruments. And of course, we have not stopped at making the kit. We have, launched globally, and we are in the process of launching in India many other innovations in the technology, in the testing technology. We all hear about mutations of the virus, right? And we are in the process of launching a mutation panel, which will allow medical professionals and scientists around the country to use and diagnose which kind of mutation the virus is, just using a normal RT-PCR machine. You don't even have to do sequencing. We are also in the process of launching many other rapid kits, rapid tests, which can be utilized to give results much faster than a standard RT-PCR test. So I think testing has been the one area that we have been very deeply involved in. R&D and manufacturing of vaccines, right? And the vaccines is the buzzword today. The world needs vaccines, and we are playing a very big role in helping our big vaccine manufacturers in the world do innovation and also scale up and do manufacturing of vaccines. And pretty much all the major vaccines in the world that have been launched, Thermo Fisher had a role to play. In fact, globally, we are working on more than 250 projects for the pandemic therapeutics and vaccines around the world.
More on the production side,
Say,
or more? Is it more on the production
sorry,
side or more on the innovation side?
both,
For
both,
both. Okay, wow.
both, both. We are involved in both innovation and in manufacturing.
Okay.
In fact, we have a pharma services group which also is involved in actually manufacturing some of the vaccines, or some processes of manufacturing of some of the vaccines in the world. There are many other futuristic therapies and streams of healthcare which are developing and evolving. And Thermo Fisher has been playing a very major role in catalyzing the development of these new types of therapies. I'd like to give you a couple of examples of that. Cell and
Sure.
gene therapy, right? Cell and gene
Okay.
therapy is the branch of the type of therapeutics where the core concept is that in diseases like cancer or certain types of cancer, the human body itself is the best defense against the cancer. If we can train our fighting cells, our T cells or our white blood cells to go and fight that cancer. And this field is evolving so rapidly that already a few drugs have been commercialized in the world. 2 or 3 years ago, where the cancer patients' white blood cells are taken out, they are reprogrammed to go fight that cancer, and then injected back into the body to go and fight that cancer. So it's really your own body being taught in a way how to fight the cancer cells. This is one of the most exciting fields of oncology that is developing, and is coming to India very rapidly. There are a couple of startups which have already started doing research here in the country. And of course, globally, there are more than 400 companies which are involved in cell and gene therapy. And Thermo Fisher is playing a very big role in partnering with the pharma companies, partnering with innovation labs, partnering with universities who use our platforms, our technologies to actually develop and deliver these therapies.
So in one way, so I keep hearing the buzzword called personalized medication, right? So it used to be a dream sentence like 10 years ago. So are you saying that you are the guys who is making this a reality along with many other partners, obviously? But this is the step which
We
is...
are certainly, our technologies and our work is deeply involved in personalizing and delivering personalized, precision. We call it precision or personalized medicines, right? And let me give you an example. There are certain types of cancer which have mutations. For example, the non-small cell lung cancer, has 4 different types of genetic mutations. Now, as of up until the time that those mutations could be detected, oncologists had to use a cocktail of drugs, and the efficacy of those drugs was, some drugs work well with certain types of mutations, and vice versa. Some others work better with the other type of mutations, and therefore the efficacy was very small.
So
right?
Try everything and whatever works.
That's right. Today we have the ability to detect the mutation, right? Before the oncologists decide which drug or which combination of drugs to be given. That improves the chances of success. It reduces the side effects. It reduces the costs. It improves the patient outcomes, right?
Correct.
Now imagine that you have the ability to do this in the future for pretty much more and more types of diseases and more types of cancers, where so far we've been taking a shotgun approach, but actually what you need is a precision approach. Another example I want to share with you is something called liquid biopsy. And many of the cancers require surgical operations to access the part of the tumor, which is then taken out and then analyzed in a lab. It can take weeks to do that. Imagine if you're able to do that by just taking a normal blood sample. And that is a field which is developing very rapidly. Again, based on next-gen sequencing, based on the technologies that we have, where we can today we have the potential of finding out what kind of cancer, whether the person has cancer in the first place, and then what kind of cancer does a person have without undergoing a surgical procedure. So I think these are some very, very exciting new developments that are happening, and Thermo Fisher has been certainly at the forefront of catalyzing therapies and working in stimulating the ecosystem. A great example of that is a cancer moonshot project, which President Obama had launched a few years ago.
Correct, correct.
And Thermo Fisher is one of those companies, one of the few companies which is actively involved in the cancer moonshot project. And we have been contributing our technologies and our expertise and our experience, and partnering with the whole ecosystem of companies and research institutions to develop innovative therapies for cancer.
Great. That's really wonderful to know. So coming back to the COVID times, can you talk about, say, or touch upon some of the new challenges and opportunities that emerged, and the lesson we have learned, or you and your team have learned, and effective actions taken to deal with this crisis?
So when we think about what happened to us when COVID hit us, I think like all other companies and professionals, it was unanticipated and unprecedented, right? And the challenge was, I would say, threefold challenges, right? First and foremost was the safety of our employees, and that remains our number one priority, right? Because wherever we operate, and we have, to give you an example, we make 6,000 calls to COVID labs and COVID hospitals to install machines, to repair machines, to do breakdown services, right? And imagine the kind of exposure, literally like frontline healthcare workers, our service engineers had to do that. And we continue to do that. And how do we ensure safety? How do we protect our employees from exposure? So clearly we've had to establish business continuity plans. We've had to establish a lot of safety protocols. We invested thousands of hours of training, thousands of hours of instituting new processes to make our offices safe, to make our factories and warehouses safe, our application labs safe, and of course to establish safe traveling and protocols for our employees. I think the second biggest challenge was when the lockdown started, and again today we are in a kind of a somewhat of a lockdown situation, although not strictly a lockdown. How do we operate, and how do we continue and support our customers, right? And obviously the customers, especially our customers in healthcare and COVID customers, had huge expectations from us, absolutely huge expectations. We have to, sometimes we've had to go in the middle of the night to go fix an RT-PCR machine or install a machine where we had thousands of backlog of samples that need to be tested. And we are doing it in a scenario where, at least last year, things were not as well thought through, and there was a lot of confusion around how do you do interstate travel, what some states required, what passes some states required, other exemptions. So there was a lot of logistical basic planning which needed to be done, and while our employees safe, how do we support our customers? In fact, there was an example where to move our COVID kits, we had no freight available, no flights, no transporter was working, and we actually had to hire Innova cars and personally transport in refrigerated boxes from Bangalore to Pune and Bangalore to Delhi. We have done things like that to move our shipments across the country to service our esteemed customers. I think the third big challenge was how do we run the company in a responsible manner, right? So obviously, when I say responsible manner, what I mean is that obviously the organization is faced with enormous challenges. On the one hand, we have unprecedented demand coming from the healthcare side. On the other hand, we have many other of our businesses which were subjected to closure of customers, when suddenly demand vanished. And how do we balance these sort of very, very different kinds of situations in a company where on the one hand you need resources, on the other hand you have very, very big impact on the end markets. And how flexible can you be in allocating resources and reskilling people, in redeploying resources where the need is the most, and making sure that that you, while we are doing all of this, we inspire our employees and we keep them highly engaged and inspired to operate, and deliver world-class services to our customers. So I think these were the big challenges that we had to face. And I
Correct.
think many companies had to face the same challenges. And I'm so proud that our team did an amazing job in overcoming these challenges and delivering outstanding value to our customers, to our country, when our country needed us the most. And we continue to do that. We continue to be so deeply engaged with our pharmaceutical and vaccine customers, with testing labs, with government agencies, with research institutions, to give them world class technologies and world class service.
Yeah, completely right. So event for us. So we run medical device e-commerce company, or e-commerce is one major chunk of our business. And during the early COVID times last year, when everything was shut, you had to supply things like hand rubs, masks, pulse oximeter, oxygen concentrator. And while our office was shut, our warehouses were open, and there was no way for our staff to get to the warehouse. So the challenges which all of us came around, and the way I think all of us fought and got it done is pretty remarkable. I think all of India has done a remarkable job on that front.
Sure, sure, sure.
Uh, Now coming out of India, for example, you keep interacting with your colleagues from Thermo Fisher from across globe, other CEOs, CXOs, people, customers from across the globe. How do you see that future of work perspectives changing in either geography or even in other industry verticals?
I think the future of work is very interesting, right? And I think a lot has been written about it. A lot about it has been discussed. I think the COVID pandemic has certainly taught us things which will remain with us permanently, right? It has taught us the power of productivity using technology, and the productivity we have driven is enormous, enormous productivity, right? So today we've had the ability to bring our CXO level senior leadership from the company in front of our customers seamlessly. To do that in the past would require months of planning, right? We had to organize visits and the sheer logistics of getting things organized. So the ability to connect the best of the best minds, the senior leadership, or whether even when we look at technology or delivering technology webinars or seminars or solving problems through remote, it has driven enormous productivity. It has led to very rapid innovation by using virtual reality and artificial intelligence and data science tools. Today we are developing tools to enable our customers to engage with us on a virtual platform. We call it Labatar. And so, for
Okay.
example, if a customer wants to understand how a new COVID lab will work and how
Mhm.
the workflow of that lab will happen and how will the actual lab look like, we can do it through a virtual reality tool. We are developing tools to give online virtual support to our customers when we can't travel. So if there's a breakdown of an instrument which is very complex, we are developing tools which will allow us online support using VR tools. It has accelerated the digital transformation in an organization to a degree which is incredible. It has impacted the way we are innovating our products. It has impacted the way we are constructing our e-commerce platforms and accelerating growth there. It's impacting the way we are looking at commercial excellence within the company, the way we are integrating our CRM tools, right? The way we are trying to develop and improve our customer experience through digital tools and technologies, and of course use data science and AI to drive even more greater insights into customer behavior and sort of our own business models. So I would say it's accelerated digital transformation. It's accelerated productivity drive, and that is certainly being the positive aspect of which will remain with us, right? So the future of work, these are the aspects of future of work which will remain certainly very positive. I think the learning on the flip side that we need to all be very watchful of as leaders is that the pandemic and the kind of stresses work from home puts on people does take a toll on mental health, right? And it is not, it's never, never one should underestimate the impact this can have on stress levels, on mental health, on the pressures that it creates on individuals, and that's something that we need to be very, very watchful of, and we need to make sure that the future post pandemic, as that future evolves, we have the right balance of interpersonal interactions, of teamwork and collaboration, and human contact, balancing it with the productivity tools and the productivity capabilities that I talked to you about, right? So, one cannot work in isolation. Human beings cannot work in isolation forever, right? There has to be, there's value in interpersonal connections, there's value in teamwork and team bonding, there's value in bringing people together to solve problems, and to drive more engagement and more inspiration in organizations. And that really cannot be done very easily virtually, right? It can be done to some extent, but you need to have a balance. So I think the future as it evolves is going to have to be a hybrid, with activities which can be done through productive tools, will remain there, but then the elements around engagement and the softer side of meeting people and driving the right work-life balance will require certainly people to get together and come together, and I think that's how it will evolve in my view.
Perfect. Right? I'm a big fan of working from home. But at the same time, when I talk to quite a few leader friends of mine, one of the things which is coming out very commonly that for many people, it is not great for work-life balance.
Yeah.
Because if you are at home, it should typically not imply that you are working 24/7. You still have to put the boundaries on what are the timings, etc., and which might not be happening in all the places. So one of these, this was a common concern, and I completely echo that also.
Sure.
Uh, Moving forward to how do you continue to manage culture and empathy in your work environment? Right now, everybody is in crisis management mode. So how do you still able to do it?
Could you repeat the question, please?
So in this current crisis management mode, which pretty much all the organization is in, how do you continue to manage culture and empathy in your work environment?
It's a great question, Sanjay. I think in our case, of course, we were operating in a crisis management mode at the beginning of the pandemic, but we soon figured out that we had to come out of the crisis management mode at some point. You cannot operate at an elevated level of stress and a feeling of crisis all the time. And I think to that extent, we have a very empowered team. We have decentralized decision making, and I think we have built in processes and prioritization, a discipline of process and as well as prioritization with our leadership teams to ensure that we drive the right level of work-life balance, right? And that we leverage productivity tools, we leverage empowerment of our teams, we leverage constant skilling and development of our teams, so that that we are able to operate in a manner which doesn't create stresses and doesn't create unnatural, or rather sustained unnatural stress levels. We have invested a lot in dealing with employee well-being, whether it is physical, medical, or mental. We've invested in a lot of mental well-being programs, such as meditation and yoga classes, such as access to online, counseling assistance for our employees, which is completely confidential and anonymous. We have made sure that our leaders check on employees on a regular basis, and we build a culture of not just focusing on work and the pressures of work, but also, to the extent possible, balance it out with the lighter moments through coffee meetings on Microsoft Teams, or just having informal chats. So there's been a lot of emphasis on taking care of our employees' physical and mental well-being.
Mhm.
And I can go on and on about the kinds of initiatives our teams have done. But what that has resulted in is that we do a employee engagement assessment every year. It's like a survey that we do every year.
Okay. Okay.
And, and of course, this year that survey had some additional questions as well on how employees feel about the stress levels and about the empathy levels in the organization. And we scored very, very high across all the
Mhm.
2,500, 2,400 employees we have in India. And our
Wow.
scores went up. And the reason they went up was because we invested so much in building, leadership with empathy, leadership with concern, and building the softer side of our leadership. As that when you show up in front of a meeting, it's not all about work. It's also about making sure that your colleagues are doing well and being sensitive to their needs, which are no longer, the same as before. Um, we were recertified Great Place to Work a second time in a row. And again,
Yes.
that survey showed much, much higher levels of scores on pretty much all parameters that were tested. So I'm very proud of our leadership team. I'm very proud of, the fact that we're balancing this important part of leadership, this important part of culture and empathy with the 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 obligation we have to society of living our mission, to enable our customers to make India healthier, cleaner, and safer, to deliver these services, to deliver testing, manufacturing of vaccines, research and development, healthcare solutions. So it all sort of comes together in a manner which is very, 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 very inspiring and motivating for all employees.
Thanks for those wonderful thoughts. So this brings to our one very, very important point. Uh, what would be your mantra for change leaders of tomorrow? You have mentored so many different leaders. So what would you suggest? What our leaders from tomorrow should be focusing on?
I think I think the leaders for tomorrow will certainly have to be extremely um, savvy when it comes to you know developing their own skills in the tools and techniques and processes that will drive businesses of tomorrow, right? And when I
Mm-hmm.
say that, I'm talking about digital, right? I'm talking about the comfort with data science, the comfort with AI, comfort with VR and ML, right? And those kinds of sort of new tools and new skills and new capabilities that every organization needs to have, and it sort of becomes a fundamental driver of success for any organization. It's no longer optional. But I think the fundamental tenets of leadership do not change, right? The fundamental leadership qualities of building great teams, of leading with empathy and leading with humility,
Mm-hmm.
of inspiring and engaging your colleagues
Mm-hmm.
uh, to to a purpose which is beyond just selling and making money, right? So what is the
Correct.
purpose of an organization, and having a purpose-driven culture
Mm-hmm.
and effective leadership in terms of ability to influence and leading with influence rather than leading with authority. I think
Mm-hmm.
those core skills are not going to change, right? Those core
Yes.
skills
Yes.
will remain relevant,
Mm-hmm.
in the future, as relevant as they are today. The milieu in which we operate, the tools and techniques that we use, and the way we confer and meet, those things will certainly change. But I think that these core foundational aspects of leadership, I don't think will change ever. And I think future leaders will need to continue to invest in those skills and capabilities when they look at developing and growing themselves.
Well, I wish we could go on with this truly engaging discussion, but unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. I'm sure the points and themes we touched upon today will provoke positive thinking and trigger interventions with the healthcare community. Thank you so much for the wonderful, illuminating, and inspiring session.
Thank you, Sanjay, and thank you, VOH, for having me on this great session. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.